Hey YouTube, how is it going today? Well, in this video I want to go over the cannabis sector. They just recently came out with some pretty favorable news, so I want to touch on that. And then I want to get into the charts and show you the best looking ones that I see in this sector right now. Now, if you're new to my channel, I like to invest and trade in typically lower price stocks and talk about all other things finance related as well. If that's something that interests you, please consider subscribing so you don't miss any future trading or investing ideas. But please remember, I am not a financial advisor, so please do all of your own research before investing in any of these stocks. Alright, well, before I get started, I do want to send a shout out to CC Invest. When I was first starting to look into this sector several months ago, I came across his channel, and he has some pretty good information, and I sent him a few questions, and he was decent enough to answer, so I really appreciate that. Seems like a really nice guy. He doesn't put out a ton of videos, so CC, you got to get on that more, because now that this sector is starting to scream, people are going to want more information, and you got a pretty good perspective on this sector, so get on that, CC. But anyway, let's get into this video. Now, I want to get into this news article that just came out, and this article says, on February 1st, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and fellow Democratic Senator Cory Booker and Ron Wyden announced their intentions to push major federal cannabis legislation. They plan to release a discussion draft in the early part of this year. It says, we still think legislation is likely going to take a couple of years, as we forecast a change to the federal law by 2023. Nevertheless, legalization sooner than that would unlock growth and capital access sooner, but doesn't change our estimated market potential of $85 billion by 2030 compared with an estimated $15 billion in 2020, according to the MJ Business Daily. Additionally, the statement included the phrase ending federal MJ prohibition rather than national legalization. As such, we continue to believe that most likely outcome is the removal of federal prohibition and the recognition of a state's right to set its own cannabis laws within its borders. Now, we would have to expect there will just be more favorable legislation moving forward rather than unfavorable, so it only makes good investing sense to position yourself in this industry because it should be a great growth sector for the next decade. And now that the Democrats have seized more control, we're probably only going to see more favorable legislation going forward. Alright, well, before I get into the charts, I do want to show you some of these growth projections if you haven't seen them already. And if you haven't, I highly recommend you going to Seeking Alpha or another website where you can look at some of these revenue projections, because they are pretty staggering. And this doesn't even take into account, all the potentially favorable legislation that hasn't come out yet. So that's going to do nothing but increase their top line revenues as far as I can see. But the first one I want to show you is Cronos Group. If we scroll down, we can take a look at their revenue projections. We can see that their top-line revenue is just expected to scream higher. From 2017, came in at $3.15 million, and the 2021 estimate is expected to be right around $92 million. So this industry is just going gangbusters. Let me put in a couple more before we jump on. This is the one that I am actually invested in. I'm invested in GrowGenerations. I've been in this one since the teens. Right now it's at about $55, so this trend is getting a little long in the tooth. That's one of the things that I would... that would be the disclaimer on some of these is, some of them, they're getting pretty long in the tooth as far as the trend is concerned. So you might want to wait for a pullback on some of these stocks because they are pretty extended. But this industry is expected to grow super, super, super strong. So sometimes you can't really look at the current price. You got to look at where you think that price is going to be in about 5 years because they're growing so strong. But GrowGeneration in 2017... made about $14 million, and in their estimate for 2021 is expected to be $342 million. So just enormous growth, and the 2020 estimate was supposed to be $192. So you can see that it is growing massively just from the 2020 estimate. So it looks like these growths are starting to accelerate or expected to accelerate. Let's look at ACB. I already have some of them in here. Look at Aurora's Cannabis. We'll go down to their projections. We can see they are projected to grow very nicely into the future. Let's go to APHA real quick. APHA is still trading around 16 bucks, so they're still not that expensive. And there you can see they have that nice steady growth that they are projected to grow into. So a lot of these stocks are just, they're just poised to grow massively into the future. Let's take a look at Canopy Growth before we get into the charts. You can see that their earnings projections are probably expected to be massive too, and they are. From 2017, they came in around 30 million, and they are projected to grow all the way to 633 million. Is their estimate for March of 2022. So, I mean, this is the type of industry that you want to position yourself into. Because they're probably just going to be growing massively for the entire decade. But let's get over to the charts right now. All right, well, we are over to my TC2000 trading software right now, and the first one I want to show you is Grow Generation. This is the one that I'm actually in. This is the one that I am the most heavily invested in. If you're not familiar with Grow Generation, they are called the Home Depot of the MJ space. They basically sell all the supplies to the companies that are growing it, and they also sell it to the retail customer as well. So this company should grow very well right alongside the industry. I like this play because, you don't have to pick the one that's going to be the big winner. You can just pick the company that's selling them all the supplies that they need. Like I remember back in the 90s, some of the biggest winners were, Applied Materials and KLA-Tencor, and they were basically selling the supplies to the semiconductor companies. The microchip growth was explosive. They knew it was going to continue to be explosive. So instead of trying to find the company that was going to make the best microchip, you could have just picked the companies that were selling all those other companies the supplies that they needed to build those chips. And Applied Materials and KLA-Tencor were huge winners during the 90s. But I'm just applying that theory into this industry right now. But probably just about every single one of them are going to be big winners. I'm sure some of them are going to consolidate. But anyway, this is Grow Generation, and I bought it after it pulled back to this 8-period exponential moving average right here. Let me zoom in a little bit. It came out with fantastic earnings right around here. I looked into the company, and it looked rock solid. The earnings were projected to grow very robustly into the future. I didn't want to chase it, so I waited for it to pull back, and I got in right around $16 a share. And as we can see, it has just went on a very nice run. It started to round out that nice cup and hand, or that nice rounded bottom formation, and then eventually had the breakout and just went on its massive run. But it is up to about, it looks like it's breaking out to a new high as I'm speaking. So, I mean, who knows how high this thing is going to go in the short run. I don't like to buy stocks when they're too extended like this, but in this industry, we might have missed our opportunity to get in at those lower prices because it looks like all of them are just rocketing higher. But let's get into the next one. We've been talking about this one in the Patreon today specifically because it is breaking out to new. It looked like it was pretty much a new 52-week high or close to it. But anyway, this stock has already completed its rounding bottom formation, has jumped above all those moving averages, and it looks like it is starting to accelerate its trend to the upside. You can see all of this huge volume that's pouring into it. I mean, I think this sector is going to be red hot for the next probably several weeks because I think everybody is anticipating, all those changes. All those favorable legislative changes that are going to be coming into this industry, and people are starting to pile in now because all that news is going to be coming out later. But OGI, I believe that they make beverages in this space, but they're definitely part of the sector, and they are looking super bullish at the moment. The next one that we've also been talking about is Sundial Growers. You can see Sundial Growers is basically the same thing. It's carving out a very nice bottom, and it's getting above all those moving averages, and it looks like it's starting to blast higher. You can see all of the volume that's piling into these stocks. This is very indicative of a stock that has already made its long-term bottom, and it's ready to start that nice long uptrend. But Sundial Growers is what we've been talking about, and also they've been talking about ACB in the Patreon as well. Because of this beautiful formation that it's making. It's busting through this resistance area and holding above it today. So just an absolutely beautiful pattern. It's above all those moving averages, so all systems appear to be go on ACB. Just a very, very nice looking chart. I might have to get into this one as well. But just rounding out some of the other stocks in this space, we'll look at Cronos Group. Back it out a little bit, and back here in the summertime is when CC Invest was just pounding the table on a bunch of these, and he was saying this might be your last chance, and it's looking like he's right, because they have carved out a very nice bottom, almost every single one of these stocks, and they're starting to accelerate to the upside. Just a very nice looking chart for Cronos Group. Let's look at Charlotte's Web, because Charlotte's Web has not taken off just yet. This one is probably one for me to start looking into a little bit better. I remember this one was a super high flyer. Yeah, it was way up in the 20s. But this one looks like it is carving out a bottom, and it hasn't taken off just yet. So this is one that is worth looking into. I probably should have jumped over to Seeking Alpha before I came over here and checked out some of their revenue projections, but I'm sure that they were probably just about as good as some of the other ones. But I'm going to look a little deeper into Charlotte's Web Holding. But here's one that hasn't taken off yet. If you haven't gotten into this sector yet, they're worth taking a look at and seeing if maybe they're ready to take off. But let's look at THCX. And looking at THCX, this is the ETF, and it is already starting to take off. Just because all the other ones are in it, and they are taking off too. But you can see all the volume pouring into this ETF. It's up over $20 today, and it's up almost 10%. So for ETFs to be up 10% on the day, that's a pretty good day, because you don't see that very often. The next one I want to show you is CGC. That's Canopy Growth. You can see Canopy Growth is doing the same exact thing. If you back out, you can see CGC carved out a very nice bottom in the summertime. And this thing was as high as the upper 50s. And it looks like it could be getting there soon, because, man, these things are red hot. And, the environment going forward in these looks super good. So they definitely have the wind at their backs. But next one I want to look at, of course, is Tilray. Tilray was the massive flyer in this group a couple of years ago. You can see this thing reached a high of $300 a share back in 2018, and then it reached a low in the pandemic lows of only $2. So if you were able to grab some under $3, congratulations, because you are up massively right now. And this thing just had a huge explosion, but you can see all the volume pouring in, but a huge explosion out of that pattern that we love to see. Once it starts finding support at the 8-period exponential moving average, and then it starts climbing up, and then you get that breakout. Excuse me. This one is up over 17% on the day. So massive run for Tilray starting again. I don't think that I went over Cronos yet. I don't believe. But Cronos is right around $12 a share, so it hasn't taken off too much. But you can see the same exact pattern for Cronos, just carved out a nice rounding bottom. And in the summertime was the time to buy. But it's blasted above all these major moving averages, and it has started to accelerate. So Cronos is another decent low-priced one that is looking super good at the moment. These are kind of extended. That's my disclaimer. So I would personally like to wait for a pullback, but that is very dangerous with these high-growth sector companies, because sometimes they just don't pull back, or they don't pull back enough to where, I get super interested. I like to see those nice deep pullbacks, but when an industry is exploding and the companies are looking super good inside that industry, chances are people aren't going to let them pull back too far, because everybody's going to want into these, because these are great investments looking forward about 5 years. So if some of these do pull back, I'm definitely going to get in. But I would just warn for the short term, they are kind of extended, so pick your spots in these. But these are some very nice looking charts at the moment. All right, guys, well, that's all I have for this one. But if you have any questions or comments on any of these stocks, please don't hesitate to leave them down there in the comment section, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed the content, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss any future trading opportunities. Thank you so much for watching my video all the way to the end, and until next time, take care, everybody.